Chapter 5 Spoilage and Prevention. This chapter introduces food spoilage, how spoilage occurs, and a range of methods for preserving food safely. It also covers the correct interpretation of food date marks in the UK, including use by and best before. So come on, let's get back to the guys who are ready and waiting in the kitchen.
Great juggling with one onion.
Date skill.
Better than me though.
Okay, chapter 5, spoilage and preservation. Now, actually, he's a remarkably well-preserved man to start this chapter.
Oh no, not the Botox joke again. If you've seen any other of our courses, Nick practically tries to work in the Botox joke to every video that we actually do, don't you? Yeah. Right, rather than talk about how well preserved I am, let's talk about food preservation instead. Right, so gradually over time, all food, in fact all life forms, deteriorates through the natural process of aging, even you and me, Nick. However, this speeds up as soon as you dig up a vegetable or kill an animal, and this spoilage is due to bacterial action.
Yep, so what we've got to do is either eat it very, very quickly or find a way to preserve the food. Humans have been doing this for thousands of years in techniques such as, for example, salting or smoking or drying. There's also temperature control, remember the danger zone. That's another great way to prevent spoilage bacteria, but we'll come back to that later, won't we?
We will indeed. So spoiled food's often easy to recognise. Now typical signs include things like discoloration, visible moulds, and often an unpleasant smell. As though we discovered earlier in this course you can't smell, taste or see food poisoning bacteria. What you're actually seeing, tasting or smelling are the advanced effects of bacterial growth by spoilage bacteria. An important point to remember there.
Yes.
Because hopefully if I ask you this question, how many types of bacteria are there? You're going to say, Nick and Marcus, there are 3. And if we asked you what they were, what would you tell us?
Spoilage bacteria, pathogenic bacteria and
Helpful bacteria, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Just we need to be quite clear on that point. Now, if you try and sell or serve any spoiled food, you're actually going to be breaking the law because it's illegal to sell unfit food or food that may do somebody harm. Don't forget as well, you're going to get probably a very bad reputation for serving mouldy food. It's also lost its nutritional value, so for a lot of reasons, it's not a good thing to do.
Next up, food preservation. Common signs of spoilage. Now I've seen the film crew getting the props ready for this chapter. I've got to tell you, I'm really not looking forward to it. Let's just have a little look in this fridge. Right, let's take it. Oh my goodness me, that is horrendous. Just look at that. I feel like I'm physically going to be sick. You probably haven't got smell-o-vision, but be grateful you haven't. Oh! Oh, goodness me, horrendous, I tell you. I'm going to be talking to my agent about this. In danger when he's been in this job. Now, look at a few things on this table we've got here. That beef looks so awful, I daren't even open the packet. Got a jar of cottage cheese here that's just gone off. Look at that, that's spoiled. You can see that? I don't even want to look at it, I really don't. We've got other things on here, haven't we? The tomatoes have gone off. You might not be able to see this, but we've got shadows on the pate. The cheese has gone off. This fish over here smells awful. So, if you can smell something, you can taste it, you can touch it. These are things called organoleptic checks. And they're going to tell you something, but pathogenic bacteria is a completely different kettle of fish. So, what do I mean when I say organoleptic check? It means that you can taste, touch or smell or look at something like I've just showed you here for signs of spoilage. You can check the product for advanced signs of spoilage, and if the food product doesn't smell right, maybe it tastes off, it's got any signs of spoilage, throw it away. Do not take any risks with your customer's safety. Always remember this though, even though there might not be any signs of spoilage, you can't take it to mean that the food's safe. Evidence of spoilage is just an indicator of advanced stages of bacterial growth. And also, food that might look okay, might smell okay, doesn't mean it's necessarily safe. So, we've already discovered that bacteria, yeasts and moulds that cause food spoilage need 4 elements to reproduce. Can you remember what those 4 elements for bacterial growth are? And hopefully you say, Marcus, yes I can, and hopefully you're telling me them, because they are, aren't they? Food, moisture, warmth and time. So to delay any food spoilage, you need to take the same steps that you would do to prevent any bacterial contamination. So things like covering the food, good hand hygiene, definitely going to need to wash my hands now, aren't I, after touching all these horrible products, and reducing the length of time in the danger zone all play crucial parts in delaying spoilage bacteria and keeping food safe and also appetising to eat. Let's now have a look at some of the different preservation techniques that can help you prevent spoilage. Nick's gone off to his trailer. Apparently you heard a couple of crew members said that his makeup looked like Uncle Fester. So no comment from me on that one. So you just got me. Now I'm going to talk to you about food preservation methods because they work by removing one of the 4 elements necessary for bacterial growth. And you remember the 4, won't you? Foods, which I've got an array of in front of me, moisture, temperature and time. So what can we do about moisture, temperature and time? And on this prep deck in front of me, I've got foods that have been preserved from caveman to spaceman. And I want you to see if you can guess which is the caveman, which one's the spaceman. So if I start over here, I've got some cans over here. By canning, you preserve food a lot longer. What do you think it's affecting? Is it the moisture content, temperature or time? Hopefully you get more because it's the temperature. Yes, it is, because they're cooked at 131 degrees for 3 minutes, these things, which is called a botulinum cook, so kill all bacteria. I've then got over here some of my favourite vegetables, actually one of my least favourite vegetables, peas. Frozen. What might that be affected? Temperature. Keep in the freezer between -18 and -25, going to last a lot longer. Then got over here some fresh chicken. Again, what might that be preserved by? Putting it in the fridge, absolutely. So temperature is the thing there. Over here we've got some, love this, Kiddylicious strawberry and banana smoothie melts. You can hear that, you'll probably know they're dried, which means what? They've had the moisture removed. Yes, they have. Then over here I've got some gherkins, one of my favourites. Again, not. Seem to get them on everything if you're ever in America, don't you? I always take them off. But they are actually preserved in a vinegar, an acid, which is an edible acid. But what that means is that they last a lot longer. And then over here we've got a jam, which has got a ton of sugar in it. And sugar again means that it in effect reduces the water content, the moisture. So although it's moist in theory, it reduces that, which means that bacterial growth is going to slow down. Over here we've got some salami that's been cured. We've got some smoked mackerel, which I've given the game away, has been smoked. If you think about this, this goes back to caveman days. Again, what does it do? Reduce the moisture. Hopefully you're saying that. We've got some bacon over here that's vac packed. Again, needs to be kept in the fridge, doesn't it? Between 1 and 4. So it's had the moisture taken out, but also you're going to affect it by having it in the fridge. Temperature 1 to 4. Got some pearl barley over here. Again, dehydrated. What do you think? Moisture removed, hopefully you're telling me. And then over here we've got the spaceman. We've got some vine-grown tomatoes that have been irradiated. So irradiation, don't use a lot of it over here in the UK, but that helps preserve food. And then 2 of the old favourites, sterilised milk and ultra heat treated milk, which hopefully you now go and work, but it's been affected by the temperature markers. You would be absolutely right. Last but not least, one of my favourites, sure one of your favourites, bottle of famous Blue Nun, which has got a thing called sulfites in it. Again, food preservative or a wine preservative there. So that's it for me on preservation methods. Hope you got most of those right as I went through them with you quite quickly. Next we're going to have a look at best before end dates. Now the key point of this chapter is you as a food handler need to make sure that you don't serve any spoiled or unfit food to the general public. And if you think something is unfit or spoiled, you need to tell your supervisor straight away. Next up, we're going to talk to you about date marks. Is that finished with now? Date marks. Now a lot of caterers get very confused over date marks, so I'm going to make it dead easy for you today. This will be a piece of cake. Now, if you've been sat there a little while now, watching a few videos of me and Nick, here's an activity for you. Get up right now, go take a look at your fridge and ask yourself this question. Is everything clearly labelled in it? When it was opened, when it can be used by, whether it could be reheated, or is everything left a little bit more to your memory or even chance, dare I say? Because clear labelling of food products, both as ingredients within your business and products for sale or service to your customers, is one of the easiest ways to reduce the threat of food poisoning. So let's talk about use by, best before and sell by dates. What's the difference and what do they mean? Food must be labelled with a date indicating the period when the food is safe to eat. And the various systems in use, and we're going to now let you know about the most important ones using some of the products I've got in front of me. The use by date, please pay attention to this one, is the legal requirement. And the reason for that is because after that date, it's highly likely that you'll give somebody food poisoning. So a few examples. Fresh fish, got a use by date on it. Chicken, got a use by date on it. One of Nick's favourites, meat potato pie, got a use by date on it. Now, just because it's got a use by date on it doesn't always mean eat by. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that so you're not confused. I could cook that piece of fish today because it needs to be used by today, is what the date is telling me on there. But then I might put it in the fridge, I might have it tomorrow cold. So you could eat it afterwards. And a food can be frozen and its life can be extended. But always make sure you follow the instructions on the pack for any cooking, storing and freezing. These foods are also highly perishable and are high risk foods because generally, as you'll see with these foods I've just showed you, they're high in moisture and they're also high in protein. So they have to have a use by date. That's the legal requirement. If you don't use the food by then, you'll probably get a big fine and also you probably will make somebody ill. Next one I want to talk to you about, best before dates. A few examples for you. This can of red kidney beans has got a best before date on there. This flour has got a best before date, and this semi-skimmed treated milk has also got a best before date on as well. Now these generally are more about quality than safety. So for example, if I don't use those kidney beans or use this flour in a recipe by that best before end date, the quality is probably going to go down, but highly likely I won't make anybody else ill. So you could use it after the best before end date. Also, I don't have it on the table here, an exception to this is eggs, which believe it or not, also have a best before date, but don't forget, salmonella can multiply to dangerous levels if this date is not observed. So best before dates only count if you follow the storage instructions carefully for things like the less perishable items, like the flour, the cakes, etc. And also I've got some green vegetables on here, which generally don't have a best before date on them. And again, Nick and I have talked to you about this before, but you would be looking for things like signs of spoilage on there, so not using them, but they don't actually have to have a date on. Now then, once you've owned a product, its durability in life is drastically shortened, and we recommend that you observe the recommended use within 3 days of opening on the manufacturer's instructions. So for example, this heat treated milk has got a best before end date, but it does say on the side here, once opened, treat as fresh milk, store in the fridge and use within 3 days of opening. Okay, next up is display until or sell by dates, which are generally intended for stock control purposes rather than the end consumer. Always follow the use by and best before dates for safety purposes. Also, and this is a really important point from me here, it's against the law to alter a date mark. Never forget, a few years ago I was working for a big supermarket chain, who shall remain nameless, and there were two things in that supermarket chain that always used to go out of date, and they were eggs and, wait for this one, soft cheeses. And I and the other lads that used to work there were often asked to change the dates on the eggs and the soft cheeses, even though they'd gone out of date. I refused because it's against the law. But that is just completely bang out of order. So if you get asked to do that by your boss, please say no, because you will be at risk of a severe fine, and you will also be at risk of making a customer very, very ill. Okay, that's it from me. Very, very well done. Another chapter under your belt. Please do remember to do the quick recap questions at the end of this chapter. Tell you what, go grab yourself a brew if you need one, get yourself a decent few chocolate biscuits, and we'll see you back here for physical and chemical hazards.